Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pop Go the Writers. It is May, 20th?
No, it's the 21st.
21st. All right.
Have you been abducted and have lost time now?
It's always a crapshoot on days with me. You know, I based on what I have to do that day on which stories I have to post for. I do the social media posts for the experience and
Right.
which shows I'm hyping. So I get on and I look and see what shows are we doing today. Okay, it's Tuesday. Oh, it's Friday. Yeah. So
I
yeah,
admit, there are days where I have to remind myself what day it is, and that's me going out into the world every single day, and I still go, is Wednesday? I have to remind myself.
well, and part of it also was my day yesterday was kind of all over the place. I got up at 7, and I have stuff I do on Saturdays for the experience and for my other stuff. So I made a bunch of posts and stuff like that. I hyped some books that are coming up for free, final order cutoff, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I finished that, I grabbed something to eat, and then I started working on the other half of that script I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Blasted through the last 11 pages of that, so that's done. Then immediately switched over, and I had finished building the current set of minis I have for the army I'm building.
Right.
But I took those out, and I did the primer thing with the blast and black primer, then hit them with the one shot of gray. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I brought them in and I did the dry brush on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I finished with that. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to watch. So I turned on a movie that I'm rewatching, the Thor movie. And I sat down and I started crocheting.
I
And
was
then
gonna say,
suddenly,
where does the crocheting fit in?
yeah. And then suddenly it was 10:30 at night and I was exhausted.
What's the there? I think there was a Calvin and Hobbes book collection called "The Days Are Just Packed."
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I
you're
mean, the only thing that broke up my day.
you're living the dream. I think that sounds great to me. It'd be better than going to my day job.
Uh, yeah. What's funny is I talked to a couple people yesterday, and one of them was talking about they have kids
Hmm.
and they're doing all this stuff for their kids right now.
Hmm.
And in the most bizarre comment I've ever received, they basically talked about how that they see my life as being kind of depressing because I don't have children.
Ooh,
And I
I
wasn't sure how to
yeah.
handle that comment because it's like, some people get joy from things other than, the people that they have in their lives. They can find ways to, I don't know, I wasn't sure how to, but it was such a bizarre statement. And the person said it with such sincerity,
Yeah. It
you know.
it I hate to say it. I mean, I don't know those people in at all, but it is kind of bizarre. My wife and I in the past have had a couple times had comments, like that directed to us. We were once told very early on when we were first married that we were selfish because we didn't have children.
I've
And
heard that.
we were just like dumbfounded. Like we didn't even know at that moment how to respond to something like that. And I mean that was a case where we think that like the person saying it was not happy with themselves because they had children and they were kind of trying to spread that unhappiness.
I've heard a
They were
similar
like
thing before.
jealous of us.
Yeah, I've gotten that once before. And in my mind right now, I look at the world we're in, and it would be kind of selfish to have kids because it's like, here, I'm gonna have you, I'm gonna raise you and enjoy having you.
Hmm.
And then when I get older, you're gonna take care of me. And then when I pass, you got to deal with what we left.
Yeah.
This is the world,
Yeah.
and it fascinates me, especially for the people who don't seem to be doing a lot to make the world better.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know,
well, listen, I saw my son on the day he was born, and then the next time I saw him, he was 34 years old. I highly recommend that, that way of having children.
wait, what?
Yeah, I've told you this before.
No.
Yeah, I have a son
Okay.
that from a from a previous relationship before my wife.
Okay.
And of course I knew about it, and she knew about, my wife knew about it too. But yeah, he was given up for adoption, and about 2.5 years ago he contacted me through email, and it took us about a year or so to get to the point where we finally, met and got together, and we've seen each other, oh, I don't know, five times or so since then. So he's 35 now. So we skipped a lot of years there. But like I said, I highly recommend that if that way of doing things, because you get to skip over all the bad stuff.
Now, did he also contact his mother?
He has tried to, but has had absolutely zero luck doing so, and he's kind of put it aside. And I think his feelings are, if it happens someday, it happens, and if not, it's not. He it's very unfortunate. He's not really sure, if she did get his message and is ignoring it, or she never got it. But it's funny because she lives in the same city as me. In fact, not like only a few miles from me. But I can't do anything
Yeah.
about it. It's not my place to do that. But we're figuring things out. We do not have a father and son relationship. You know, I mean, he has parents. He
Yeah.
has very good parents, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Here's the really cool thing, to bring it down to a geeky level, is that he's a geek. And he told me, once we started talking and comparing notes and interests and all kinds of things like that,
Yeah.
he was fascinated because he said that his adoptive parents are not geeks at all. And he still got that. And I'm still fascinated by it. That's something that came through the genes. It's a whole nature and nurture thing. He was not nurtured as a geek, but he still found his way there. And it's that's fascinating to me. Yeah, he was saying, like, his parents really had no interest in all the pop culture stuff or whatever, and he still gravitated towards that.
See, now I find that interesting because uh, I'm the only one in my family
Hmm.
who is into pop culture, nerdy stuff, that voracious reader,
Yeah.
um, and the only creative one from my immediate family. I have an uncle who likes to write, but it's very limited in what he talks about. It's more he kind of writes down his own life,
Yeah.
but he's a very eloquent writer when he writes. But yeah, uh, this is kind of funny. But when on my 40th birthday, I got asked to join a metal band.
We should
And
all be asked to join a metal band on our 40th birthday, right?
so I basically started with this garage band at 40. And I'd only been playing bass for a little while, but it was fun and stuff. And I mentioned to my mom, "Hey, Dustin, how you doing?" Dustin, you missed earlier. I mentioned that that script I was working on. I'm finished and now having somebody read it. So, um, so I was playing with this garage band type of thing, and I mentioned to my mother that I was doing that, and she's like, I don't know where that comes from.
Hmm.
There's no there's no one in this family has musical talents at all.
Hmm.
And I start listing all the people in our family. It's like my uncle Don, who can play any instrument that he picks up. Within a few minutes, he figured out how to play it, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's like, it's just kind of this part right here. you know. So
My dad is geeky in the sense of so much of the pop culture things that I love. He put me on to. He was a voracious reader. He liked science fiction. He read comic books. Growing up, the whole thing. My mother is about as unpop culture as it gets, but somehow those genes were still strong enough in my dad to get to me. Um, my brother and sister and I are all creative. My dad used to, he doesn't do it. He hasn't done it for years, but he could draw if he wanted to. My mother's not artistic at all. My dad played the trombone, in high school and things like that, and loves music. The only difference between him and me is that he is a huge sports fan, and I'm about as anti-sports as it gets. So I got like one half of him, and then my brother and sister, even though they're creative, they got all the sports
yeah.
and not really the pop culture stuff.
Now, see, I'm also a big sports fan, and again, neither of my parents were. My dad only ever watched the like World Series or stuff like that
Yeah,
if there was a pool at his work,
yeah,
and then he was waiting to see what the final score was. But other than that, didn't care. I mean, he grew up in Chicago, so I think I once caught him watching a Bulls game with Jordan, but that was about it. So,
mhm.
but it's funny that we're talking about this. Something I came across yesterday, and this may be something but the saying "blood is thicker than water."
Mhm.
We've been getting that wrong forever.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that the bonds with your family are stronger than the bonds with your chosen friends
Okay.
because that's not the full quote.
Okay.
The full quote, and I have it written down because it totally blew my mind. The full quote is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Oh,
So the blood of the covenant, the group you join, the friends you make,
yeah, that's the
is
opposite
stronger.
of what we think it means.
Exactly.
Huh. No, I've never heard that. Never.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely fascinating that we've been getting it. It's like curiosity killed the cat. People use that line to get people not to be curious,
Mm-hmm.
but the full line is curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back.
Yeah, that one I know. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it means to
Yes.
be curious. You
Right.
know. Yeah,
Right.
Justin says we can choose our tribe. Oh, wait, I forgot I can still do this. We can choose our tribe, not our family. Exactly. And I personally, there are people in my life that I would take a bullet for.
Mm-hmm.
But more that list, it has more people who I've chosen to have in my life than people that were in my life because of genetics.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep.
all right.
Here's the really cool thing that okay, here's another saying: the leaf doesn't fall far from the tree. My son is a pretty good writer, and I actually have included him in a book that I published.
Oh, very cool.
He wrote an essay for the Rising Sun reruns, the book about memories of growing up. He wrote the Power Rangers essay.
Well, very cool.
Yeah, and it's very good. So isn't that's a funny thing? That's another thing that those genes are very strong.
We're gonna switch. We're gonna stay with your writing, but we're gonna
Okay.
switch real quick. I
Okay.
just happen to have these two on my desk because I got them recently. But
Yeah.
and
I
I saw
love
you.
those covers.
I know I saw these and I went, I got to get them.
Yeah,
And
that's
sadly, this
those
one's a little
editions are.
damaged,
Hmm.
but you know, I love these covers. I want to get the full set.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Those are one of the nicest additions to come out in recent years.
But you just completed a an article or a paper for.
An article for 13th Dimension, where I'm pretty much a regular columnist for there. I do probably like 1 to 2 to 3 articles a month for them, and that's Dan Greenfield. His whole shtick there is usually with articles is breaking things down into 13 points. Where that came from, no idea. But what he does is for the columnists, he sends out a list for a month, and it's basically like birthdays of all different notable people from pop culture or anniversaries of notable films. And then he always tells us, okay, pick something. And so for May, I picked there was one. Did I do one earlier? But anyways, I picked Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming's birthday is a week from today. May
Okay.
28th. So I actually wrote and turned in my article, and we get to like kind of pitch how we want to do it. And I said, okay, well, Ian Fleming, there's 14 original Ian Fleming books. Two are short story collections, and then there's 12 novels. I said, I'll do something that I think is really fascinating from the first 13 books. I actually had to omit Octopussy and the Living Daylights, but you know what? That's okay. It came out after he passed away,
Yeah.
and I mean it's whatever. So oh my God, it was so fun because so much is talked about the movies that I don't really see a whole lot about the original novels, and I've always been a huge fan of the novels. Hey,
Yeah.
that came from my dad. My dad was a huge James Bond fan, and loved the novels, and then I finally got around to reading them, and I think I've read them all 14 through like maybe 3 times,
Mhm.
the whole series. I did not too long ago. I completed a read through, so that was really fun because I went through each book and I pulled out something that I thought was like one point or something that I thought was very fascinating, and maybe that a lot of people don't really know. So that will be put up a week from today on the 28th at 13thdimension.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't sat down and read the original novels,
Okay.
but I've listened to a few of them. I remember listening to. I had a drive from here to a convention in San Jose and back,
Hmm.
and I listened to Casino Royale, and I remember coming out of it thinking, A, I really liked the
Yeah.
book. B, um, that there was a lot of sexism in it, which
Which nobody's denying. Yeah. I mean, yes,
yeah.
they're
I'm
very
not
much a
saying
sign of the times.
yeah, I'm not saying that we should edit the book or anything like that. Just maybe a little warning. But and then C, I was fairly sure that I could play Baccarat after listening to that book because
Yeah.
he does go into
Yes.
such detail
Yes. Yes, it
on how the
does.
game is played that I was like, I want to play Baccarat, and I know nobody who knows how to play the game.
Um, Casino Royale is, of course, the very first novel.
Mhm.
Came out in 62 or 63. No, 62, I think it is. Or 52, 52,
Yeah,
52 or 53. And I think
it
it's
would be April of 1953.
there he goes. I think it would surprise people who are only really familiar with the films. It's kind of an typical spy thriller, there's a
Mhm.
good chunk of it that isn't really about, espionage and that sort of thing. Um, it's yeah, it's got a lot of card playing in it. Yeah, yes, but and spoiler alert, the thing that I pulled out to talk about that one is that here it is, the very first James Bond novel, and he is ready to turn in his resignation. He is ready to quit, and he's fallen in love, and he is done with the Secret Service. And I
Yeah.
just think that's such an incredible way to try to kick off a character by having him really at the end of his tether,
I, I think it's
and want to
perfect.
walk away from the whole thing.
I think it's perfect because of what happens and how it turns out,
Mhm.
it hardens him.
Yeah. Yes.
He
Very.
needed
Yes.
that heartbreak to
Yeah.
be become the spy that he is.
Yeah.
You
What
know.
I love about the Daniel Craig Casino Royale is it pretty much retains the ending from the book right down to even some of the dialogue. There's a little bit that happens right past that in
Mhm.
the film, which I kind of wish they'd end it exactly where the book ends. But it was so funny sitting through the movie going, I hope they use the line from the end of the book, and I thought, no, they probably don't feel that they can say that in a modern movie. And sure enough, he says the line, and I was very glad. The books can be very rewarding, in my opinion, if you make sure that you keep a frame of mind that they are very much of their time.
Yeah.
They are very much their writer's mindset and how he looked at the world. Bond is at many times Ian Fleming,
Right.
and his own experiences and his own way of looking at the world. But yeah, you've got to roll with the machismo, uh, misogynism, which I think is a little debatable. I mean, they're sexist, but Bond does not hate women,
Right.
but it's been described that way. And then you also have to roll with long descriptions about what Bond eats. That's funny thing is I love those. I love those parts of it,
Yeah.
but it's they're so good, and there's this overarching story through all of the books about a man going through self-destruction. Bond is not a two-dimensional character. He drinks too much and he smokes too much. There's a in when you get to the novel Thunderball, he's so in such poor health that M has to send him to a health resort because he's just really just killing himself
Yeah.
with drinking, smoking, carousing, and just burning it at both ends. It's
Yep.
a really really fascinating thing. You get down towards the end of the books, and there's actually a little trilogy in like a series within the series called the Blofeld trilogy that people call it that, and it's I just love those books. I mean, I would think that before my time is done here, I'm probably going to read them through, one more time. But again, they can be a little challenging, and people have told me that they're slower than the movies, But I
Yeah.
say just push through. Casino Royale can sometimes, to some people, be like you don't like, oh my god, this is not what I want. If you can kind of get through Casino Royale, I think it'll be rewarding by the end, and then just keep going from there.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of. I want to get to our main topic, but I got a lot of
Sure,
things
sure.
to shoot off of this. One of which is there's this great audiobook series of the Bond books, read by different famous British actors.
Wow.
I recently listened to The Man with the Golden Gun, read by Kenneth Branagh.
Wow.
I think David Tennant does one.
Wow.
I mean, it is great. And
Yeah,
they're all
that's
these
really great.
artistic white covers. So if you're on Audible, look for those. I think Bond and audio is great.
It's too bad that Kenneth Branagh does what is sort of arguably not really one of the great Bond novels. The very last one is not. It's not bad, but Fleming died after writing the first draft.
Yeah.
And so they went ahead and published it anyways, but it is said that he would normally go back and put in all the detail of Bond's world that we all expect, but he didn't get to that point. He passed away. So it's a very sort of lean, sparse, Bond novel.
Yeah, I noticed that having listened to it, it was a little different than what I was expecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing is, I recently got to interview Philip Kennedy Johnson, the current writer for the Bond comics over at Dynamite. And it was fascinating because I was talking to him as he was coming to the end of the first miniseries, and they had just announced that he was going to do a second one. So we got to really kind of pick apart things and about his approach to Bond and stuff like that. And I got to say, he's doing a fantastic job.
Good.
He really gets the character. So if you're not reading that,
Good.
It's worth checking out. As is our mutual friend Alan J. Porter's James Bond Lexicon.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a fantastic book. That is like everything Bond, comics, novels, cartoons, TV, movies, everything.
He was the first one to respond to my note on Facebook about writing and handing in that article. And, it's like Alan J. Porter is saying, "Oh, I'm looking forward to reading that article." And I'm like, crap, he's going to pick it apart. It'll be terrible. No, Alan, I'll pay you not to read it.
That would be like writing a Star Wars story and Dave Filoni going, "I'd like to read it."
Yeah.
Oh.
No. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Alan is one of my go-to essayists. He's in so many of my, my nonfiction books. In fact, he's in the brand new one that we just started working on. So,
nice.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, Alan's a good guy. I met him years ago at, I want to say it was Wizard World, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went to so many cons for a while there that, but I think that's where I met him, and I got to hang out with him and Paul Benjamin, who was somebody that I first broke into comics with years ago.
Is that the humanoids?
Huh?
Yeah. I once had contact with him a long time ago when I was pitching stuff to him. I always love to include Alan in a book because his experiences growing up in England are always so unique, and I don't really get that from anybody else. So whatever my theme is, suddenly I'm with him, I get the British child's point of view. G.I. Joe, which was Action Man, Japanese TV shows, whatever it is, he always gives that unique perspective.
Yeah. Paul and I actually broke into comics at the same time. We were working on a studio called Hardline Studios, and we were kind of running it. And then I ended up just kind of taking over the whole thing when he ended up stepping out. But a few years later, I ran into him at WonderCon, and he had just started working at Humanoids. He was an assistant to Dave Aldrich at the time. And he's like, "Yeah, if you got any ideas, pitch them to me. Mm-hmm. We're doing a new Humanoid, or we're going to do Metal Hurlant again." Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting 2 stories picked up for Metal Hurlant.
Great.
Which were some of my first published freelance work.
I got close, but I don't really remember why we never got to setting up a deal or whatever. But that was a fun time back then to do pitch and stuff.
Yeah, I would just send him just boatloads of stories and stuff. I was using an interesting way of pitching. I just picked 2 genres, mushed them together, and then wrote a 1-pager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he just started picking them up.
That's great.
He picked up 2 of them. Great. And one of them turned out to then get adapted for the TV show.
Wonderful.
So, all right. The topic I wanted to talk to, and this kind of full flows off of the James Bond conversation about keeping in mind the time period things were written or made is well, the topic itself is the internet destroying pop culture? Little topic. And some of the examples I'm thinking of, one is a post I saw today, and I don't want to get into who it was or whatever, but it was somebody pointing out all of the problematic moments in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Hmm.
And this is a very beloved movie. It's had millions of midnight screenings and people dressing up and
Mhm.
but when this guy made this list of, well, there's this rape and there's that and then there's
Mhm.
against their will, and then you start going, oh yeah,
Mhm.
it gets creepy, and
Mhm.
so something like that. Or and then another extreme is James Gunn just came out and said that he's very good at responding to rumors and stuff. And
Yeah.
said, well, he's going to stop. He's going to stop taking the time to debunk rumors and stuff because he feels that because he does that, people are now making up more and more rumors that have no credible basis just to get attention from him or
Yeah.
just to maybe get, well, he didn't debunk this one, so it must be true.
Yeah.
And it's
You
kind of,
know, that seems to me a case of a few people ruining a good thing for everybody else. That we had a nice little thing going with him.
mhm,
Uh, that's great that he would interact that way, but yeah, and then you get these few people who overextend and take advantage of it, and then yeah, and then what? Sure, he's going to step back
yeah,
and just not want to do that anymore. Yeah, I mean we've seen stuff like that happen over and over. I don't know if I've ever gotten to the point where I've consciously thought what you just said is the internet ruining pop culture, but I'm sitting here prepared to say yes, probably. My thing is that I am getting sick of, and this is funny because here's you and me, but I'm kind of getting sick of everybody being a reviewer,
mhm,
you know?
yeah,
Um, and the the literally picking apart things. I mean, that's kind of what you were saying about somebody picking apart Rocky Horror Picture Show. Um, I don't know. It's a really weird time because we're getting more pop culture than ever before, but the darker aspects of it are almost out of hand.
yeah.
And to the point where it might even be, well, you said it, ruining it for a lot of us.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a lot of ways the golden age
Yeah,
for basically comic book adaptation movies.
absolutely.
And even, I mean, and there's such hatred for some of the movies that come out.
Yeah.
Yet you look at them and they are leaps and bounds over the stuff we used to get. Whether you look at the Captain America TV show in the 70s or Rex Smith as Daredevil on the Incredible Hulk of the 80s.
Nicholas Hammond as Spider-Man.
Yeah. Or up into the 90s when we start getting Blade, which was good, but we still got a lot of bad
Yeah.
movies too. So the fact that in the last 20 years we've been getting such great movies that, I mean, you look at Quantumania is going to be, that just came out on Disney Plus, and I have seen so many people posting on social media going, where'd all the hate come from? It's not a great movie, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's I maintain that a lot of the hatred that's going on today, that no those people aren't truly feeling that for whatever it is they're pointing it at, that it's something else going on. It a lot of it is a need for attention. And I see that a lot in the people who post review, like YouTube review videos, that it's always a negative headline.
Yep.
And I don't think that those people even really feel that. They just automatically will come up with a negative headline so that you'll click. I mean, it's clickbait, you know.
Yeah.
You click on it because, you know, you won't believe what blah blah blah, you know. I'm not sure why anybody falls for that, but um, I always think of a quote from, I think it's Star Trek 4, the Star Trek 4. It's the president of Earth or whatever, the president of the Federation is giving a speech. No, you know what? I think it's Undiscovered Country. But the president of Earth is giving a speech and he says, let us define progress to mean that just because we can do a thing doesn't mean we should. And I always think about that. Like, yeah, we do. We have the ability now to go into this incredible thing called the internet and have the ear and the eyes and the minds of potentially millions of people, but it doesn't mean that, you know, we should do the things that we do
Mm-hmm.
just for attention. um I'd like to think that the majority of people, the majority of Star Wars fans are relatively normal people who enjoy most of what they watch, you know, and that it's a very vocal minority who are the, you know, the naysayers. To name drop a little bit, Jeff Johns, my friend Jeff Johns, comic writer and movie writer and everything. He, a long time ago, when I used to get upset about when people were ragging about a comic book online, he always used to kind of laugh and say, Jim, remember, he said, that's only maybe like, I don't know, you know, 1,000 people online or whatever. He said, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people elsewhere that are very happy. But he said, you're never going to hear from them. You're always just going to hear from that, you know, several hundred or whatever people. You know, he said, just don't take what you're hearing and seeing on the internet as gospel. He said
Yeah.
that's not necessarily a representation of how the majority, you know, thinks and feels.
Well, there's a quote that I came across a few years ago, and I bring it up a lot because it's so accurate, which is a lot of reviewers nowadays use negativity as a proxy for insight.
Yeah,
You can't actually add something to the discussion about the movie, so
yeah,
they attack it to make it seem like they know what they're talking about.
absolutely. In
And
lieu, and you know, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, right?
yeah, and I look at it this way. I mean, I'll go out on my Facebook page, and this is not me sitting here on the show or during the Dan McClellan show during the week talking about the movie. This is me just simply saying on my page,
Mm-hmm,
"Hey, I just saw this and I liked it."
mm-hmm.
And to have people who I've never in my life had an actual conversation with come on to tell me how wrong I am
Yep,
about the fact that I, in my opinion, liked a movie.
yeah,
That fascinates me that we're at a point in the existence of this planet that people think that that kind of action is normal.
right, right,
You know,
yeah,
it's
and
like, I don't cross the street to my neighbor. My neighbor took the facing off of their house for a while to do some repairs, And then for years, I mean, freaking years, they didn't put it back on. And I never walked over there going, excuse me, what the hell?
Your house is ugly. Right, right. We've said this before. You would not do this stuff in real life. The only reason you're doing it is because you're on the internet and you're safe in your home. You know that that person is not going to punch you in the nose. Which if you did that in real life, you would get a punch on the nose.
Yeah. Ed reminds me of something I actually had on the Dan Glenn show. There was a article that came out about how angry She-Hulk fans were about the finale, and it was posted 9 hours before the finale came out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was anticipation. It came to me in a dream that they're going to
Wow.
be upset. Jay says, "Just have the right opinion, Dan. Not that hard." Thanks, Jay.
Hey, I keep telling him, but he won't listen to me.
Now, Dustin brought this up. He said, the issue is that producers don't have a vested interest in the characters. They are vested in the films, which is great, but the love of the product isn't there. And while I think that having a love for the characters is important, I don't necessarily know if that's the case most of the time.
Yeah.
Because I look at people like Zack Snyder, who I think loved the characters that he was working on and loved the story, just had his own approach to it.
Yeah.
Just because you have a love of the characters, Kevin Feige is a huge fan of Marvel.
Huge.
Now, he's playing in the ultimate sandbox for him.
Yeah.
James Gunn is actually a bigger fan of DC than he is Marvel. So now he's in the perfect sandbox. But Gunn was able to find the love for Rocket. Rocket was his way into Guardians, not Star-Lord or any other characters. Rocket. And that's why it does become Rocket's story. So I think it's not fair to say that they don't have a love for it. It is completely possible to love a character and still make a craptacular movie.
Yeah. Sometimes you're too close to it. I guess.
Or why you love a character may not be the same reason why another person does.
See, I would say that some of that issue is more about the suits who are not invested in the characters, but are invested in
the cash,
making money and whatever else. And that is, I admit it, that is what we're somewhat seeing with Star Wars right now. I completely believe that Kathleen Kennedy is invested in the characters, the property, the concepts, and cares very much about them. But she still has to answer to the the suits. That becomes the problem when they start directing a film or a TV series, and we can usually at this level pick up on that. Yeah, that's probably. I guess that's what happened with Boba Fett.
Yeah,
you can't have Grogu come back. Later. He's got to come back right now. So, we have to insert him into Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, because Robert Rodriguez loves Boba Fett, and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau love Mandalorian. So, but it was the studios that forced certain decisions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
no, I think Marvel Studios has gotten an incredible amount of people, especially directors coming in who were or are invested, in the properties and love all that. And Kevin Feige, that's just an amazing example right there. And then Favreau and Filoni are the other examples. You've got people at a pretty high level who just are love their jobs and love what they're doing.
Yeah, it's true. Dustin brings up a neat point. Says, well, everyone has to answer to the mouse. I mean, look at the now defunct AVP cartoon, a complete program, and everyone is paid, but it's not to their standard. Batgirl's another one. What was the Shazam movie? Fury of the Gods.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know some people who loved the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Our mutual friend Kyle.
Mm.
That's one of his favorite comic book movies ever. He saw it, I think, 4 times in the theater.
Well,
Okay. Kyle loves comics, but that's his movie. But, it barely made any money in the theater,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know? Now it's going to be on HBO Max, I think, starting next week on Tuesday. So more people can see it, and we'll probably get a different. Anytime these things hit
Yeah.
these streaming services,
Yeah.
the attitudes about them tend to shift.
Right.
Like the Eternals is still the most viewed movie on Disney Plus.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, when it came out and the reviews it got and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in a lot of ways I think it's because of the negativity that comes out because a lot of people want the attention.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Sadly enough.
but something else I was thinking about, and I was talking about Zack Snyder and his take on Justice League and DC and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and the Man of Steel. And I was thinking that if you sat down, you made the top 10 Batman stories of all time, a good number of them are in the main continuity.
Yes.
And even the ones that aren't are not far, like the Killing Joke. I don't know if the Killing Joke is in the main continuity, but it is really close.
I mean, it is. I mean, yeah, because that's how Barbara became Oracle.
Yeah.
You
But
know.
you look at that, you look at the Tim Sale, Jeff Loeb stuff, Hush, these are all well loved.
Mm-hmm.
Superman, you pick the top 10 Superman stories, and the majority of them are outside of continuity.
I've never really thought about that at all. Huh.
Yeah, see, I actually was looking that up one time, and with Superman, you get stuff like Red Sun,
Yeah.
you get All Star Superman,
All Star. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
and so when people critique Superman, the movies and stuff, and it's like, oh, then it should be he should be like this, and it's the comic book version.
Yeah.
But the ones that people outside who don't read comics all the time read are the versions where he's not exactly the same Superman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Red Sun. Look at right there. Red Sun and Justice were so good. Superman as a Russian or raised in Russia, Superman that goes evil. Red Sun is amazing. So, well, yeah, we get Man of Steel. We get Superman that snaps Zod's neck, and has the big battle in because that's probably the books that Zack Snyder was looked at.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can't really agree with what he did, but that's
Right.
a good point. So now let's see if Supergirl snaps Zod's neck in the Flash movie, or the I'm Batman movie.
Yes, I'm Batman. You think that he's said that a handful of times now? How much do you think he's made per time?
I hate to even think of it.
But yeah, I was thinking about that with. I mean, there's a lot of books out there, a lot of characters out there, and I mean with Marvel, we look at some of the characters, we go, which were the best stories? With the Fantastic Four, the majority of the best ones are the Lee Kirby run.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the John Byrne stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jonathan Hickman's run. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I don't know what to say necessarily about. Yeah, I guess, sure.
Yeah, but I mean, but then you go to somebody like Spider-Man, and there's so many to choose from.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, interestingly enough, you don't have that situation with Spider-Man. We don't all just start saying all, all it's all from Lee and Ditko.
Right.
I mean, just, I mean, the death of Gwen Stacy was not Lee and Ditko,
That
right?
was what, Jerry Conway?
Yeah, and
Ross Andrew?
Russ
Or
and Drew. Yeah, no, my God. I mean, there's just decades and decades of
yeah,
popular Spider-Man stories.
Craven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that one
Yeah.
there. I mean, there you go.
The Death of Gene DeWolf,
Yep, yep.
which was
I
Peter,
think pretty
Peter
much
David.
everything except One More Day.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, don't talk about One More Day.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean, the
there's even
Clone Saga is more beloved than One More Day.
there's also the Straczynski run,
Yep.
which I didn't really like in the comics,
Mm-hmm.
but I came across I almost want to call it a companion novel set around that same time, written by Jim Butcher, the guy known for doing the Dresden Files.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Hmm.
And it's dealing with the spider totem and stuff like that. And it's funny, I remember picking up the book going, why would he pick Spider-Man? You would think the Dresden Files guy would want to write Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, right? Exactly.
But then when I really thought about it, his character of Dresden, what's Dresden's first name?
That I don't
Harry.
know.
Harry Dresden
Harry.
and Peter Parker are very similar in that they always try to do the right thing and nothing ever works out right. They're never going to have a good day. Bad things just happen to them.
Well,
and
that's probably why he was the one then to write that.
And 5 minutes into, I listened to the book. 5 minutes into listening, I'm like, he's perfect to write Spider-Man. And by the way, I recommend that if you haven't read it. Whether
I know of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I am surprised how much I like that because I didn't really like Straczynski's, the whole Moreland thing and the spider totems and stuff.
I don't think I would say most people don't even know that novel exists.
I was wondering by how many fairly recent shows have been removed from streaming. IP author Stephen. Oh, okay, this is an on topic. Just another guy named Harry. That's funny. Hi, I was alarmed by how many fairly recent shows are being or have been removed from streaming. IP authors like Stephen King will have to put clauses in contracts demanding physical copies 2023 on. The reason they're being removed from the physical media is that these studios that are making their own streaming services like Disney and HBO Max are looking for additional revenue streams. So when they're taking these shows off of streaming, it's a temporary thing. They're not removing them to put them in the archives or anything like that. They're going to be looking for other streaming services they can license these out to, whether it be Hulu or Netflix or something like that. One of the recently canceled DC animated, the Batman that Bruce Timm and J.J. Abrams and all them were putting together was going to be on HBO Max or soon to be Max. They canceled it, but they didn't cancel its creation. They just canceled it being on Max, and it's going to live now, I want to say either on Prime or Netflix. So this removing isn't necessarily a sign that they don't like these properties. It's that they think that these are properties they could license somewhere else and have an additional revenue stream. Dustin says, the best Spider-Man book, in my opinion, to this day was Reign. I don't remember Reign. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, I don't know why did that sound familiar, but I'm not really remembering what.
That's not the one where he has cancer and we see his willy, right?
Was that before or after Batman's full frontal nudity?
Where he was old and retired. I think that's the one where you see his Willie.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't need to know that, but now I do know that.
Yes.
Okay.
His little trapdoor spider.
Okay. This show has really devolved.
Yes, it
We're
has.
to the point where
We're destroying pop culture.
This is what we're doing now, I guess.
We're on the internet. We're destroying pop culture.
Yeah, really.
We have gone
Well,
meta.
I said it way back when. Yeah, I thought it might seem ironic to some people out there that I'm complaining about people being reviewers, and here we are.
It is Rain that I'm thinking of, where Mary Jane gets cancer of having been exposed to him for all those years.
Okay, but that's out of continuity, right?
Well, maybe. It's the future. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
You know? It's kind of like Logan. The fact that Hugh Jackman's coming back for Daredevil doesn't negate Logan, because Logan is set in 2029.
Absolutely.
And Deadpool 3 will be taking place in, I don't know where we are now. We jumped 5 years, so it'll be before Logan. So Popco the Writers, the After Dark edition.
Yeah, because it was really needed.
We'll start doing midnight shows. All right. So I think we're kind of in agreement that the internet and how everybody has a megaphone nowadays.
Yeah.
And tend to use negativity to get attention. Well, negativity and nudity seems to be the two things. And this is completely off topic, but it's the fact that you see cosplayers and stuff. The cosplay costumes are getting skimpier and skimpier and skimpier, and they're doing characters who are fully dressed. And suddenly, I saw an image online today of a woman done up as Pinhead from Hellraiser, who had the little metal face things on, and basically dental floss for a bikini.
Well, okay, yeah.
Now,
don't go saying that that's just a need for attention, because you'll be labeled as a sexist.
True. Let's see. Jay says, "I'm a Superman fan. What I'm mad about is the waste of Cavill. I will reserve my judgment on what Gunn does until after I'm sitting in the theater watching it. If I don't like it, that's all I'll say." Okay. I'm not going to trash something before I see it, though. Well, that's a unique thing on the internet.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with you?
This Harry's got to go watch the penultimate episodes of Barry. Hopefully it doesn't break the internet. Night.
Night.
Good night, Harry. And Dustin says, well, in the novels, the Cenobites were described as sexual beings. Okay. Well, there is the whole thing with Peter Parker and Silk, the character of Silk, who anytime they get together, it's like libido on.
Yeah, yes, I'm aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, but by the way, anytime I hear the word Cenobites, I'm thinking, is that place in the mall where you get the cinnamon roll?
Right, Cenobites.
Yeah.
Cenobites.
Oh, Cenobites are from Hellraiser, so that's why. Okay.
Yes, Cenobites.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Gunn, but just need to see what he does. Fair enough. Cinnabon, yeah. I mean, the books were hard into a sexual side, just like the original Aliens push. Okay. Yeah, see, I forget. Yeah, the Cenobites always throws me off, that term. It's kind of like the xenomorphs. It's like, no, they're aliens. No, they're xenomorphs. When did they get that name?
Come on, get with it.
I'm old. I forget these things,
And Venom is a symbiote.
Yeah, symbiote, Cenobites, cinnamon rolls,
donuts.
Donuts, yes. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up here. Join me during the week on the Dan Wickline Show, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Jim has got a ton of podcasts he does you can find out there, including one on a rewatch of the the Doctor Who series, which I just realized they're all on HBO Max, so I could catch up on the ones I've missed too.
I'm watching classic Who on BritBox. They don't tend to have the missing ones that have been animated or whatever, but there's still a lot on there.
Yeah.
But it's the Doctor's Beard podcast, and it's a rewatch for my partner, but not for me. I'm watching it all for the first time.
You're lucky. I think that's neat to be able to.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat shows out there that I wish I could. It would be like being able to sit down and binge watch all of The West Wing for the first time.
Okay.
I just think that's amazing writing on that show. And so, all right. Any homework I need to watch for our shows this week, Dan? I will be doing a rewatch of Thor this week, and I think we'll pick up on the pitch for a Jack of Hearts series. And I'm not sure what the other day is going to be, but we will get to that. All right. Have a great night, everybody. See you during the week. Take care. And be good to each other. And go watch Quantumania.